So you mentioned that it's been about 14 years since you got out, and you were speaking about second chances and everything that Big House means to you. Can you talk a little bit more about your story and your second chance?
Welcome to another episode of The Best of Living in East County. I'm Tracy Nelson, and today we're at Big House Beans Specialty Roasters, coffee with a purpose. Come check it out. So I am here with owner John and manager Meg of Big House Beans. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and, how you came up with Big House Beans?
Well, we came up with the name Big House Beans because originally when I was released from prison, nobody would hire me. So it really opened up my eyes to the stigma that society has against people that have barriers to employment. And so I told myself, if I'm ever in the situation to hire people, I definitely want to give people a second chance. I feel like the name Big House Beans is just kind of a play on the words that kind of is a conversation starter that gives me an opportunity to share the transformation in my own life.
I love that you're open to giving people second chances because of your own personal story. How did you get into the coffee business though?
I had a mentor who was also a pastor, a great friend, also Ben Joyce, and we would just hang out and roast coffee. And I was so blown away and intrigued by the nuances of specialty coffee. I kind of became obsessed with it and figured out how to turn it into a business.
Were you already a Brentwood resident or?
No. Big House Beans started in Danville in my garage.
Wow.
And then we moved, developed a roastery in Antioch, and then we came to Brentwood at the farmers market. And after doing the farmers market for several years, I felt like we owed the community a brick and mortar cafe.
I know we have a really big farmers market here in Brentwood, and having a brick and mortar Big House has been a huge asset to the community. So let's get into the specialties and coffees and drinks, and what do people normally order here?
Yeah. We have a maple cinnamon latte that people love. That's like our go-to specialty drink. A lot of people love our honey lavender latte, and every month we have new seasonal drinks, specialty drinks. So every month you can stop on and get something new.
You have little bites to eat too. It's pretty good. So
yes.
Give me some examples?
People love our avocado toast. Our avocado toast, we have dill cream cheese toast. We make the cream cheese in-house. People love our breakfast sandwiches. We have gluten-free options as well that people love. So
Meg, tell me a little bit more about your location and what kind of sets you apart from the other coffee roasters.
Yeah, definitely. We roast our own beans. So all of the beans that you're trying in your lattes, in your Americano, in your drip coffee are beans made by us and roasted by us. And so we have a roastery in Antioch where we roast our own beans. We make all of our food in-house. And what I love so much about being here at this location is just the community that it has. People gather here for their weekly meetings. They constantly do their work here Monday to Friday. And my favorite part of the job is having regulars come in, seeing the same people, knowing a little bit more about their life, not just their coffee order. So
that's great. And it's a very convenient location. It's, walkable to Liberty High School, downtown Brentwood, and the farmers market and whatnot. So the ambiance here is incredible.
So you mentioned that it's been about 14 years since you got out, and we're speaking about second chances and everything that Big House means to you. Can you talk a little bit more about your story and your second chance?
Yeah. So when I was released from prison, I was very serious about re-entering society and trying to figure out what that meant for me. I think the obvious thing is just to get a job. But I realized that there is so much more to life than just having a job. But even finding a job was extremely difficult, and I tried not to get discouraged. Now can look back and appreciate all the no's that I got initially because it made me stronger and more determined to be successful. My heart was really positioned in a way where I can provide for myself, provide for my family, and also provide opportunities for other people. I had another business before Big House Beans, and we did the same thing on a smaller scale. But Big House Beans has given us the opportunity to really integrate with society on a more, personal level where, you get to know the customers get to know you and your staff. And I saw how transformational that can be. I do want to just point out though that when I started, I was homeless. I had no money, I had no family. I just had determination to succeed.
Well, that come from because to be at that level and hear no constantly.
I think in my last time of incarceration, I had a little talk with God, and I basically just literally like brought me to my knees and just cried my heart out and just like pleaded like I cannot and don't want to continue to live this life. I didn't know how to change, but from that point forward, I never used drugs again. I feel like God completely redeemed my life and set me free, like a true freedom from my addiction. And my addiction I had for 17 years and was at such a low level that I think anybody that knew me gave up on me. There were times where I gave up on myself, but I think ultimately I'm a fighter and I just didn't give up all the way. You know, I was down to the final second, and you know, just like in any movie where they kind of come back at the last minute, it was like that was me, you know.
Sometimes people, I feel like addiction has affected all of us in some way. And sometimes I feel like, you know, people are waiting for this rock bottom, but not everybody has that, or has what their rock bottom is. We don't know, right? Until something happens. But it sounds like God heard you, and it's incredibly inspiring, your story. And I'm sure that, I mean, just sharing it as much as you do here and anywhere else that you go in the church, everything else really helps other people. I think that's pretty amazing that you're accomplishing like all your goals, especially, you know, where you were to where you are now. It made a huge difference, I'm sure, for a lot of people.
Being in addiction has a negative impact on society, on your family, on your kids, on you. The key things have just been community, and I've learned how important community is. Having that support outside of, you know, work or outside of anything. I think a lot of people want to change. They don't necessarily know how, or if they do, where do they start after that? That's where the community comes in. And instead of pushing them away, we need to embrace them. That's what happened with me, is people embraced me. I say that they loved me until I learned how to love myself and to love others. They showed me just, you know, we're all struggling in different ways in life. It just looks different for different people. And I just learned how to just work through that. A lot of people helped me along the way. I feel greatly indebted to help others. And I think that's what really drives me to want to be, you know, more successful, is just so I can have a bigger impact helping others.
You do that through your church as well as here, or?
I would say my story is an open book, and I'll tell it anywhere. I think my church, Fellowship Church, gives us a platform that is always encouraging us to grow and to be a better leader, and to embrace the community in different ways. One of my big goals for 2025, 2026 is to build another cafe that is essentially located in the community. And also my dream is to have a home where these men that are graduating other programs that might not have a place to go or might not have a healthy place to go to start their new life.
Well, that's an incredibly powerful story. I have no doubt that you're going to be able to accomplish that given everything you've already done. You mentioned starting in your garage. Can you elaborate a little bit on the next steps that you took?
Yeah, so we were roasting coffee, and I was so intrigued, I became like obsessed with roasting little batches of coffee and just tasting each different type of coffee and the different profiles. I would describe it as smelling flowers. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but like if you taste like a lighter roast coffee that's really floral or fruity, it can truly be beautiful, like you're drinking like a juice. It's uncommon. So I was very intrigued. I started roasting coffee in my garage in this little roaster, and you know, sometimes the garage would fill up with smoke and the neighbors would come over and make sure everything was okay. And I was like, you know, when I get obsessed about something, I want to go big. And I was like, okay, I want a big coffee roaster for my garage. And I was like researching, and I found like they're so expensive that there's no way I could just have this in my garage as like a hobby. So it forced me to kind of turn this into a business to pursue my passion and interest in coffee. With no real experience, I raised some money to buy a coffee roaster, found a warehouse to put it in, and had never roasted coffee on a production coffee roaster prior to actually purchasing it and putting it all together and having a business plan to sell coffee.
How'd you learn? You were watching videos or what?
I'm still learning. Coffee is subjective. That's another thing too that I appreciate about this industry is there is a general kind of guideline, but you could say this is the best coffee you've ever tasted, and I could politely disagree, and we're both right. So it has been a grind for going on 11 years.
So where can we find you guys online?
Yeah, we have an Instagram and it's at Big House Beans.
And that's where we can find the menu as well. And
Yes, linked in our bio is the link to order online, and there you can look through our entirety of our menu.
so thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us at Big House Beans here in Brentwood. I'll see you next time on another episode of The Best of Living in East County.